Wednesday, October 13th, and welcome everyone to this committee meeting of the Aberdeen City Council. And I will start our committee of the whole meeting at some notes. So I am Council President Deanne Shaw, and I am opening our committee of the whole meeting. The first thing that is on our agenda is a roll call.
Thank you. Andrews?
Here.
Ellis?
Good evening. Here.
Francie?
Here.
Gordon?
Here.
Kochman?
Here.
Mackey?
Here.
Meskis?
Present.
Richrod?
Here.
Ross?
Here.
Shaw?
Here.
Short?
Here.
Taylor?
Here.
Shave?
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Clerk. The next item on our agenda is guest speakers. And tonight we have guest speakers from the Timberland Regional Library. They have a proposal to update and renovate the building we own that houses the library. And so I would like to welcome Stephanie Reese and Cheryl Haywood for a presentation tonight on their plans for the library.
Thank you, Council President Shaw. And thank you to Mayor Shave and the rest of the council for allowing me to present tonight. I'm Stephanie Reese. I am the library manager for our Aberdeen Library. And I have joining us tonight our executive director for Timberland Regional Library, Cheryl Haywood. And she will have a few remarks after my presentation here. So I will share my screen for you and we can give updates on where we are with our beautiful remodel here. A lot has happened since I last spoke with you. Oh goodness, there it is. Okay, a lot has happened since I last gave you an update on how we are doing. We talked at the end of 2019, and we were just beginning to talk about a remodel. And a few months later, we had a major disruption in our lives. And
Stephanie? Yes. I don't mean to interrupt, but if you were trying to share your screen, we're not seeing it yet.
You're not. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, we are.
I was able to see it.
Okay. Let me redo. Thank you for interrupting me, Council President. I want to make sure everyone's getting where we are. There we go. Okay, so I do have a PowerPoint up, and it should be purple with reconnecting communities on there.
I can see it, Deanne. Okay. I don't know about
you. If I've got it, that's okay. Oh, I just figured it out. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so a lot has happened. We were just talking about getting started with the remodel and hadn't done any planning yet. So throughout the last year and a half, we've done a lot of looking at our lives and at the world and at the library. We've done a lot of observing and learning how patrons are using our library. We've done a lot of assessing how a library would function in a pandemic and how a library should function after. So I named this remodel before the pandemic. I named it Reconnecting Communities, but I think it's more applicable now, more than ever as people come through this pandemic and are reconnecting. We want that place to be at the library as a community center. So with that, I will go ahead into the first slide. Can you see my entire screen? I should minimize that probably. Okay. So Timberland serves our community in a lot of different ways. When we think about this remodel, we think about the library services and the values that we have of access for everyone in our communities, working together with the community for education and development opportunities. And we want that library to evolve to meet the needs of our community. And this remodel will take us into the next, 20 plus years. The library is a place where you can participate in all of community-led activities. You can borrow a variety of items, and you can connect both to people, your fellow community members, and you can connect to the digital world that we are living in. So Timberland's mission is to welcome everyone to a vibrant world of possibilities. And that's really the goal of this remodel, is to update our space with exciting, vibrant, engaging, active spaces that are meant to serve the community and to enrich people's lives. For the remodel, we conducted a lot of research. It was going to be 6 months, but we got the opportunity to talk for about 1.5 years about what this library should look like for the community. We started with focus groups, working with specific members of each of these populations to determine their needs. And we really learned a lot about how they use or don't use the library, and what it might take to have the library help them in their lives. The teams are ongoing, a little bit more ongoing, because these are the really important factors that go into our library. What we learned from some community conversations that we were having is the art in the library, the safety of the library, and the youth of the community are really important to who we talk to. And then look and feel, how does our library adapt but also keep its charm and keep its rich history and still feel like an Aberdeen space. And then equity, diversity, and inclusion is becoming, it's a very important part of bringing the community together. So we talked to individuals about all of these considerations, and they will make sure that we're going in the right direction with our remodel. So that's just kind of an ongoing way that we keep in touch with our community. This is the kind of exciting slide, which we are able to provide an updated timeline because we met with City Mayor Shade and department heads last week, and we were able to come up with the idea that we're ready to restart the remodel. We were on a bit of a pause just because lumber and costs were rising and expanding. So we took a 4-month pause and met last week to say that we can begin starting with the project manager. So for the next couple months, we'll be looking for a project manager for our to work with us. The next steps of the design phase are really these exciting ones where we get to find the colors, the features, the fixtures, the stuff that really makes it a library, what should be in it, and how it should look. So that's going to be a fun part of the design for the next 6 months. And then construction on the building could begin as early as June. And that timeline would be 6 to 9 months for construction. So we could open a new library in 2023. That would be really exciting. For the library, Timberland wants to continue to provide really awesome library services during the construction of this building, So we have a few options that we are reviewing, and that could include, a possible storefront, renting a storefront downtown in Aberdeen, or we can maybe do mobile services type of model that Timberland is developing, and we can maybe partner with some local businesses around town that might host us for an afternoon or a morning. So that's kind of an exciting plan that I'm working on, and we will keep you updated as we know more about which direction is best for our community. The cost of the remodel, you can see there, we are going to get everything that we want for the next generation of library users. And that cost is going to come from the generous endowment fund given to us by Catherine and Shirk and held by the Grays Harbor Community Foundation. So now I want to take you through a few of the photos and 3D models that the architect has given us to kind of show what the library could look like. This is not the final product. This has no flavor of Aberdeen, no personality there, but it's just showing you kind of that openness with the core features still intact, including our beloved owl. He is not going anywhere. He's been with us for 63 years, and he's going to stay with us as long as he likes. So not going anywhere there. On the south entrance, as you're coming in from the parking lot, this is a new view. We've got shorter shelving, we've got enhanced lighting. On the right, we've got a large glass enclosed youth area. And this will help with, I'll talk more about it later, but it will help with safety and their busy, noisy activities that kids need to be able to do when they're growing up in a library. So that's just kind of a good look there. And it also shows that on the second floor, there's more room as we expand the balconies out to the pillars there. On the second floor, we are going to get 2,500 square feet of additional space. So as we look at what the pandemic has done for libraries, we already knew that we were kind of outgrowing the space volume-wise with our patron capacity. So now we've got more room to social distance or more room to just be together, but not on, not near each other. So we do want to add 3 large windows to the parking lot side of the building, which enhances the daylight or gives us more daylight. 3 meeting rooms. We're going to have a public restroom upstairs and a second staircase. So you can access it from the front of the building. You can access the second floor as well. This new space is called I call it the West Wing, and it is not currently open to the public. So we get 1,700 of that 2,500 square feet. This is going to be open to the public. It's going to lead you to have more space for collections, have that public restroom, and have another meeting room that could be like a conference room for more medium-sized groups, 10 to 12 people there. And then our innovation lab is also going to be on there, which I'll talk about in a minute. This is an interesting and fun idea to put a little pavilion building, a lantern style building on the back of the library. And we think that this will really change the relationship of the back of that building, about the back of our library to the alley. We think it'll change the way visitors can see the library from Wishkah Street. It'll be brightly lit in the evening, and we'll have signage out there that really highlight that we're the library and this is where we are. We are looking at ways to make the back of that building a useful and welcoming space for the community. And so we really think we can change the relationship with the back of the building here. This can be also used for expanded access hours. And what we would do there is we would close the main library, and we might be able to, patrons use their key cards or their library cards to access this portion of the building to pick up their holds, to use the computer, or maybe for quick printing and scanning opportunities. So it's kind of giving patrons extra hours to use the library without necessarily staff being there. These hours could look like 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., for example. And Timberland has piloted this in a few other libraries, and there will be more libraries to come soon. And so this would be an opportunity for Aberdeen to do that. And then I would like to briefly highlight some specific areas that would really make this library a vibrant community center. And one of those is the youth area. We all know how important our youth are, and it's really important to connect children to the library early on. So we are going to be doing some vibrant, bright spaces, beginning with that big glass partition for safety. And then it also helps with our building is kind of big and echoey. And so we can kind of close off a portion of this and do some noise control so that kiddos can also enjoy their library and be safe as well. Youth areas, again, we're with the extra space we're gaining from this remodel, we're going to be able to separate important development stages in the lives of our children by giving each of these categories or each of these stages a different space that is uniquely developed for them and developed for their needs as they grow. So we're going to have birth to 5, school age, and teens who have their own spaces that are appropriate for them. And again, I just really want it to be colorful and active. For birth to 5, this is an example of our Centralia library that we remodeled a few years ago. It's got a glass partition that helps with noise. And then on the bottom, it's got a mural, and a really colorful mural that is done by a local artist. I'm very excited to get a local artist to perhaps do something for our youth area as vibrant and colorful as this. And I say a library with a slide because I've really got my architect working on how he can make a slide work in the library. So we'll see if that comes up. For school age, they don't have a space right now. It's kind of mixed in. There's no fun there. So we thought, let's bring in some ideas for them to be able to, collaborate together, play, hang out, complete their schoolwork or projects after school, kind of in that same environment as the birth to 5. And then when we get to teens, they get their own space that's independent and accessible, still safe and welcoming for them to come hang out. I really want this to be designed by teens. We have tried that with our current space and it worked out really well. So I've talked to a lot of teens and they said gaming chairs and, big TV screens. So we'll see. And hopefully we can make a lot of that, their ideas happen. So it'll be really teen focused with their activities and resources that they need. And then our innovation lab is another new space. And this is started as an idea that is funded by the Marion J. Weatherwax Fund that's held by the Grays Harbor Community Foundation for us, and specifically for Aberdeen for youth services. And so we grew this idea as it's kind of like a maker space, but it's kind of grown into a space where you can use our technology, our hardware to learn how to do digital content, to learn new skills. So we're going to get a 3D printer to learn how to create apps and software that you can make movies and sound mixing. And I'm just really looking forward to this. Because if we get to print things, I want to print a baby Yoda. That's the first thing I want to try and print. So we'll see. On the meeting room front, to highlight this, it would just be, we were seeing so many reservations on our 2 meeting rooms that are available at no charge. And we wanted to give even more space so that people can use specific small rooms for private study, or meetings with one-on-one with, their people in their lives like, WorkSource or DSHS or any social services that they might need to meet. We would have up to 15 supervised visits per week before the pandemic. And it was one of the only places that those services could bring kids to reunite with their parents. And it was really special to us to be able to see that connection happening at the library, where we were a part of that success. And so we thought more meeting rooms and more flexible spaces could work in the remodel. We would want to entice local partners and local performers to come and do more events as soon as we can, safely do so. And then with another area that I'd like to highlight with the remodel is the safety and security of the library. That was at the top. That was one of the top issues of concern for community members when we talked about all of our libraries. Just making sure that they feel safe in the space is important to me. I enjoy talking to anyone and everyone about this subject because it's a very particular passion of mine to make sure that the Aberdeen Library feels like a place you want to come and you want to hang out. So I'm trying to talk about this at every opportunity, which is that our staff are always trained in the most up-to-date conflict resolution. We treat everyone with an empathetic approach. And we do have library behavior standards at the library that everyone who meets them can enjoy the library safely. And when they can't meet them for that day, we have our actions that we can do and try to have them, have more success another day. So we do have the safety and security standards, and we are actively working on them. We read books like these because we just love reading books and learning. And the remodel is going to enhance the safety and security, whether that's more cameras so that we can find problems and work through them, or just spaces that are designed to minimize conflict, like minimizing the hallway and so that it doesn't create conflict all by itself. So we frequently review the standards and practice them so that everyone has a safe and enjoyable time at the library. And then lastly, if you have any thoughts or ideas to share with me, I have my email, specifically mine, or you can email the Aberdeen Redesign at TRL for community input, because we really get to design what is going to work for us. We are going to be doing project updates at our website for the remodel, which is trl.org/location/Aberdeen. And I will stop sharing now, and I will see if Cheryl would like to say a few words before we have, if we have time for questions. So, thank you, Cheryl.
Thank you, Stephanie. I just want to say thank you, City Council and Mayor, for this opportunity for Stephanie to share the vision that she, as a leader, brought forward from many community members. So thank you for the opportunity. Thank you, Stephanie, for your leadership. We are so excited for this project. This is a project that is like no other that I have seen. I've been with Timberland now since 1996. We haven't done a project like this since 1999 or 2000. So it's been a good 20 years. Like Stephanie said, we are planning for the next 20 years, and we want a building that's very, very flexible for all of those needs that we know now and that we know are going to come. So this is going to be like the showcase library in Grays Harbor County. And we know that when new libraries or when libraries are remodeled like this, you can double or triple the people walking in through the door, because they will be so proud of their community jewel, so to speak, and they will bring their friends and so on. And we really want to make that slide happen. We really want to make that slide happen. So, anyways, so thank you again. And one more thing, the Aberdeen Timberland Library is the only library in our 29 public library system across the 5 counties we serve that has 2 major endowments, the Shirk Endowment and the Weather Wax. And the Weather Wax now is at, the Shirk one is now at $11 million. It should be spent, obviously not all 11. And because of rising costs right now, we're not quite sure about the actual costs of the project. That's why Stephanie wrote 2.5 to 3.2, I think she wrote. So you're very, very, very fortunate to have that kind of access to funds that could really enrich members of the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie and Cheryl. Do any council members have questions? Councilmember Meskis.
Thank you very much. I don't have a question. I just want to say thank you, and that you all deserve a huge pat on your back. I think this is an amazing addition to our community, and just the thought that's gone into especially serving our youth from all ages. We've needed more things for our youth to do, and I think this is going to be really great, and I really hope you guys get the slide.
Thank you, Tiesa.
Councilmember Ellis.
Thank you. What a cool project, and exciting partnerships to make it happen. That's really great. Can you tell me if there will be earthquake retrofitting of the building during the remodel?
That's a wonderful question. I'm thinking that we haven't had any structural engineer. We are working with the same structural engineer that helped us with the project 20 years ago. So they have familiarity with the building. We're not at the point where the structural engineering reports have come in. So I will make a note to make sure that we do that, but I'm sure we will. There's a lot of work to be done to get that second floor to be solid and for the balconies to come out. So while they're in there, we can make sure that that happens. Yeah.
Super. And then it wasn't clear, some of the diagrams of the exterior of the building look like that maybe there's a proposal that would cover up all of the brick on the exterior. Is that the intent, or will the brick still be visible?
The most of the brick will be visible. There's no intent. There's probably some ceiling and updating work that we can do, but the brick is to remain. And then perhaps with the pavilion, they want to incorporate glass, and I don't have the specifics, but they want to incorporate the glass for the lantern style, but we can also fit in some of the brick. It would cover up that portion of the brick in the back, but they're really conscious of keeping the history, keeping the balance of the building and not changing that aspect of it. So I'm not sure where it looks like that, but I believe you, and I thank you for that note, because we do want to make sure that that aspect is not taken away.
I appreciate your answer. Thank you so very much.
Any other questions? Not seeing any. I will just share that I probably won't say this right, but I just want us all to continue to be mindful that this is a library that operates within a city-owned building. So I look forward to future updates, and eventually the council being, fully informed on exactly what is going to happen to our, very historical, beloved library building. And we appreciate the lead that you're taking to modernize and update and make it relevant to everybody, but also we look forward to continued updates so that we know what is proposed.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You will have those updates.
All right. Any other questions? And thank you for coming tonight. We really appreciate it. This is exciting, I think. Again, go. If council members don't have any other questions for our guests, I will move on in our agenda. And next we move to item C, which is updates from our department heads. Our first department head I'll call on is our Community Development Director, Lisa Scott.
Thank you, Council President Shaw, City Council, and Mayor. We have finally added the code compliance specialist, Lindsay Dancer. We kind of pilfered her from another department, Water Customer Service. She was sharing an office with Code Officer Bill Cedar, and she continues to share his office as the codes compliance specialist. She actually officially started on October 1st, though she has been helping train her replacement in water customer service. So she's kind of actually been part-time with us. And as soon as they're up to speed there, she'll be on full-time. So we really appreciate that. We have also advertised to fill the recently vacated position of Building Inspector 3, though we are advertising for Building Inspector 1 or 2, and that's mainly due to the oversaturation of jurisdictions wanting to hire qualified and licensed inspectors. We hope to have someone hired by the end of the month. There will be, I have a public meeting scheduled for next Thursday, October 21st at 6 o'clock. And that will be at City Hall. And that's going to be to discuss the comprehensive plan. This will be open to the public. Masks will be required. The consultants will be there. So please look for an invitation in your email tomorrow. It is on the calendar, but please feel free from that email to share that with anybody who's interested in participating. The city is continuing to work on our community rating system through FEMA, excuse me. This was a vacancy recently left when the building inspector 3 left. And we no longer have a floodplains manager. So we are hoping to have one in place by 2022. That is a building department function, and internal staff will be taking that on. They'll be heading to training in January, paid for by FEMA, to get that certification. So we hopefully will not skip a beat in that. And probably look sometime to next year to get approved and with FEMA, and that would mean a reduction of flood insurance rates for our citizens. So it is really important to us, and we are working in that direction. We continue to process a record number of permits. I sent out the third quarter revenues for your perusal. Please let me know if you have any questions. And as we heard from Stephanie Reese tonight, we are working with the library. Mayor Shave, myself, and Patricia Soul participated in that meeting with them. And so what we're going to be doing is putting out an RFP. We're going to run the project manager and the architect and eventually construction through the city. So we will be looking to put out that RFP and obviously bring back to council, hopefully a qualified applicant to take us through that process. So you will be involved, and from our department, we are more than happy to help in that endeavor. A good project manager will really hold our hand and hold the library's hand through this exciting project. So if you have any questions, I am available. Thank you.
Do any council members have questions for Director Scott? Council Member Ellis.
Thank you. Director Scott, just wondering if the comprehensive plan meeting will also be available via Zoom for people who can't physically make it in for the meeting?
No, it will not be available Zoom. We cannot do dual meetings like that. We will try to have a video there. So for anybody that is not able to participate, we will get the video recording of that online. We're going to try to do that through YouTube. But at this point, we do not have the ability to Zoom and public meeting at the same time.
So following up on that comment, is this a meeting that falls under the Open Public Meetings Act?
Yes, it's open to the public.
So if it's open to the public and falls under the Open Public Meetings Act, we might want to double check, because it's my understanding that remote is required, but in person is optional. So we might just want to double check on that.
Okay, we can do that.
Do any other council members have questions for our Community Development Director? Okay, moving on. Our next director that we'd like to invite for comment is our Corporation Counsel, Jeff Myers.
I don't have anything for this evening.
Thank you. Next, and I don't see Judge Solon on the call, and usually that's fine. We know that we're just blessed to have her out there doing what she does. Next, Finance Director, Patricia Soul.
Thank you. The Finance Committee met today at 6 p.m. and I'll defer comments to our Finance Chairman, Cashman. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any council members have questions for our Finance Director? Seeing none, our next director is Fire Chief Hubbard.
Good evening, Tom Hubbard, Aberdeen Fire Chief. Public Safety met at 6:30 tonight, and I will defer to Chair Tawny Andrews to share the notes.
Thank you. Our Human Resources Director, actually, does anyone have any questions for the Fire Chief? Seeing none. Next is our Human Resources Director, Debbie Mills.
Good evening, everyone. I have nothing to report for tonight.
Does anyone have any questions for our HR director? Okay, thank you. Our Parks Director, Stacy Barnum.
Thank you. I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully this is a good format for you guys. So I wanted to let you know the projects that I'm working on. We're working on the RV park design. We've completed the design survey and the soils analysis. For the Wilson Creek Bridge, that's the bridge that enters Morrison Park, I'm working with SCJ Alliance on a cost estimate to have them provide us with an evaluation and then some alternatives for things that we can do to address the pedestrian access to Morrison Park. For the Stewart Park Trail Bridge, that's in need of repair, I've included some funding in my 2022 budget request to repair the bridge at Stewart's Park. Still working on the potential land swap with the school district. That's a portion of property at Pioneer Park that we're considering trading ownership for with the school district so we can own Gardley Park. The proposed parcel is completed by Berglund Schmidt, and now I'm working with a commercial appraiser to get the value. So with that, an upcoming request will be to have the easement extension is set to expire the end of this year. So with approval from the school district, I'm hoping to bring to you a request to extend that easement until June, I put 2021, June 30th of 2022, not 2021. And then agenda items I have, I've got the report requesting the council to approve the mayor to sign the agreement with Washington State Recreation and Conservation Office. This is for the Little League Field project, which is a new restroom and new fencing. The agreement was reviewed by our city attorney, our contracted city attorney, Jeff Myers. And then the other item I have on the agenda is just informational. It's at the end of the agenda. The Board of Museum and History wanted to be sure to let the mayor and the council know that they do support the proposed building that the city is considering. And then lastly, for those of you who know Craig Coik, this is his last month on the payroll for the city of Aberdeen. Craig began working for the Parks Department in October of 1978, and he wanted to retire in October 2021. So he has worked for the Parks Department for 43 years. And Craig was a great person to work with. I was 17 years old when I started working for the Parks Department, and Craig was my boss. And so it's kind of fun now that I'm the Parks Director and he got an opportunity to work for me. Craig was the person behind the scenes that helped to make Aberdeen a great place, our flower program. Anytime our groups requested to have tables or bleachers brought over for events, all of our sports events. Yeah, Craig was a great guy. Everything was hunky-dory and he could always do whatever we asked. So I will miss him, but I wish him all the best in his retirement. And that's all that I have.
Thank you. Any council members have questions for Director Barnum? Councilmember Richrod.
Not so much a question as talking with some tourist types from California, and they were heading out to the Westport area. And I told them that they're on the way out, there was where the ball fields were, was eventually going to be a new world-class RV park. And they've been here before and they were really excited about hearing that. So the word's out there now.
Great. Thank you.
And so just a reminder, perhaps that in addition to the report and recommendation from the museum, we have a workshop with the museum at our on October 20th. Our next Wednesday is spoken for council members. the museum would like our kind attention so they can share with us what they've been doing and help us as we make decisions going forward. So next is our police chief, Steve Shoemate.
Thank you, Council President Shaw. Steve Shoemate, Aberdeen Police, and as Chief Hubbard made mention, public safety did meet earlier this evening. For the police side, we do have a number of items that we discussed. We also have an item on the agenda tonight, reference consideration to amend the current public camping ordinance. We had a fair amount of discussion during public safety, and obviously that has since also garnered a fair amount of feedback from our community. So I look forward to further discussion with that. But I will defer the remainder of the comments at this time to Public Safety Chair Tawny Andrews. And I'm available for any questions.
Anyone have any questions for our police chief? So looking forward is a relative term, right?
Thank you.
All good. It's all good. We need to work this out. And our Public Works Director, Rick Sanger.
Good evening. Public Works met yesterday at 4 o'clock. I didn't actually make the meeting. I was at a workshop up with our consultant on the North Shore Levee. So, but I did call in for a couple of the important committee reports to answer questions, and I will leave those to our committee chair.
Rick, we can't hear you. Rick, you went mute after. We will leave those to our committee chair.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Well, I went through that once. I shouldn't have to go through it again. But anyway, Public Works met yesterday at 4 o'clock. And I was actually at a workshop with our consultant on North Shore Levee, so I called in to answer questions that anybody might have on the one big item that's coming up. And I will leave all those committee reports to our committee chair, Meskis. But I had said, if there's any questions for me, I'm available to answer them as always. I think that's exactly.
Does anyone have any questions?
I think that's exactly how I said it the first time.
Oh, well, thank you for remembering so you could say it twice. Councilmember Meskis.
Thank you very much. Rick, during the meeting, we had an item that I need to add to the agenda, but I don't see an email with the report to the rest of council. It was item number 6. I was just hoping that maybe before we get to that part of our main meeting, you might be able to shoot that report out to the entire council.
Was that the closing out of the ecology loan?
Yeah.
And, okay. Yeah, I'll find that the email and forward it to you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Welcome.
Any other council members have questions for Director Sanger? Seeing none, we'll move now to item D, which is the mayor's report. Mayor Shave, what do you have for us tonight?
Thank you. I have a couple of things. There are a few. Saturday, October 30th, 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. is the Downtown Aberdeen Association is sponsoring Spooktacular trick-or-treating downtown. Several places are participating, so that should be a lot of fun. Also, Grace Harbor County received a community development block grant from Washington State Department of Commerce. And a portion of those funds are being used to support micro enterprises. So that's like 5 employees or less. And childcare providers. Grace Harbor Inc., Greater Grace Harbor Inc. is administrating the Micro Center Grant Program, and it's up to $5,000 is available for qualifying enterprises. So that should be a big help for smaller businesses. Also, Coastal Community Action Program will be opening up the second round of appointments for the Treasury Rental Assistance Program beginning Friday, October 8th. So that's underway. Information on how to apply or who may be eligible and contact information for questions, more details in, so you can contact CAP for help there. Also through CAP, they're taking appointments for the LIHEAP program. That's help with utilities to get, there's grants out there or funds out there to help you with utilities as well. So that's important. And let's see, lastly, I spoke with Cassie Lentz yesterday, and the cold weather shelter will be in Westport will be available November 1st with 25 beds. Aberdeen and Hoquiam RFQs are still open till this coming Monday. So we'll find out, hopefully somebody's bid for this area next Monday. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Mayor Shave? Seeing none, we will move on to non-standing committee reports. This is the opportunity for council members to share what we've been up to since we last met on the various assignments that we have. The first on the is Council Member Andrews.
I attended the museum board meeting this week or last week, and they are very excited. As Council President Shaw mentioned, we have a workshop with them next week at 6:30 via Zoom, and they're very excited to receive feedback from the council and to see where the council's priorities lie. So that'll be informative. That's it.
Thank you. Councilmember Ellis.
Thank you. I had a meeting with the firefighters local 2639 to see what was on their mind. And they were very concerned about both the Aberdeen Grays Harbor Hospital and the Elma Hospital being on divert status, which meant a crew plus a vehicle having to go as far as either Tacoma or Chehalis to transport someone to a medical facility, and how that takes them out of service for, could be a half a day, could even be longer. And just wanting to make sure that we as council were aware of some of the challenges that they're facing, and an overall concern about the health of the hospital, which has recently not laid off, but they've lost a significant number of staff and had to close down an entire floor, from what I gather. So we know that the hospital is a vital part of our community, and just the importance of maintaining a relationship with the city and the hospital. So that was good, and I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Francie.
Hello. I did a cleanup on ditches that feed into Fry Creek, kind of between Myrtle Street and Oak Street on Pacific. A lot of garbage bags, and most of the recycling was alcohol containers and no syringes this time. That's what I've been up to. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Gordon.
Nothing at this time. Thank you.
Councilmember Cashman.
I also have nothing at this time.
Councilmember Mackey.
I have nothing this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Meskis.
Thank you. I do not have anything to report tonight.
Councilmember Richrod.
I had one thing and the mayor took it, but that's okay. It's about Spooktacular that's coming up and that's going to be a fun thing. That's it.
Councilmember Ross.
That's ditto for me. I wanted to mention Spooktacular on October 30th. Great event for the kids. Thank you.
Between the three of us, we've given it a pretty good commercial job tonight.
Yeah. Councilmember Short.
Nothing this evening. Thank you.
Councilmember Taylor.
I have nothing right now. Thank you.
Okay, well, that will end our non-standing committee reports. And if council members don't have anything else they want to bring up, that will end our committee of the whole meeting. It is 8:06 p.m. and I turn it over to the mayor.
Thank you. This is Mayor Shave, and it is Wednesday, October 13th, 2021 at 8:07 now, according to my clock. And I call the Aberdeen City Council meeting to order. Public comments and public hearing comments are included during the Zoom meeting. The public was notified that if they wish to speak during the meeting, an email be sent to the city clerk and indicate if they would like to speak or have the clerk read the comment. If they desire to comment live, they will be called on during the meeting and allowed to speak for 3 minutes. Written comments provided before the meeting have been provided to city council members and will be read into the record up to the current 3-minute time limit. Deputy City Clerk, could we have a roll call, please?
Yes, thank you. Andrews?
Here.
Ellis?
Here.
Francie?
I'm here.
Gordon?
Here.
Kochman?
Here.
Mackey?
Here.
Meskis?
Present.
Richrod?
Here.
Ross?
Here.
Shaw?
Here.
Short?
Here.
Taylor?
Here.
Shave?
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes.
Mayor Shave.
Yes, Council President.
Before we go to approval of the minutes, I would like to move that we excuse Councilmember Francie from the previous meeting.
Second.
Motion was made and seconded to excuse Councilmember Francie. I thought he was just here.
No, from the previous meeting, at the last meeting, from the previous meeting.
Oh, I didn't hear that. Okay.
Sorry, I had complications from being sick from last meeting.
Okay, thank you. Is there any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Mayor Shave, I would move to approve the minutes of the previous meeting.
Second.
Motion was made and seconded to approve the minutes of the previous meeting. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Are there any additions or deletions? Councilmember Meskis.
Thank you very much. Under Public Works, they have a report to add. It's a report from Public Works and the Public Works Director recommending that the City Council shall authorize the mayor to sign the DOE amendment to finalize and close a loan. I would like to add that to the end.
Okay.
Second.
Motion is made and second to add this to the agenda. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, moving on to public comments on all topics, or if you want to comment at a public hearing, a written request must be submitted to the city clerk. Deputy City Clerk, will you please note for the record any public comments that have been submitted?
Yes, thank you. We have 11 public comments submitted tonight. I have at least 2 that are requesting to speak themselves. So I will start by reading some, and then if you are here as an attendee and you've requested to speak, please raise your hand, and then I will get to you when we get to that section. So I will start with public comment number 1. Just a moment, please. All right. Here we go. Please read the following at the October 13th meeting. My name is Ashton Lanning. I reside in Cosmopolis. The so-called ordinance that Mayor Petey wants to pass is illegal. See Martin versus Boise. This ordinance comes after Petey called the cops Saturday night in the pouring rain to bring in an excavator to destroy a pile of pallets that the residents of Tent City 3.0 were using to build structures with. These structures are safer and more stable than flimsy tents. Just look at the one that we managed to build with the remaining pallets. Mayor Pete Shave hates anyone less fortunate than him, but especially our unhoused neighbors and family. I remind the city council that there is no cold weather shelter set up for this year. It is mid-October. There is nowhere else to go. So here we will be surviving despite Mayor Petey's abuse and tyranny. We're not going away. In the name of River Rick and all those unhoused who have died on our streets, cold and hungry and soaked, solidarity forever. Next, we will go to public comment number 2. Dear Mayor Shave and City Council, I think it's very important that you did not evict the people attempting to shelter in the City Hall parking lot without an alternative location where they can put up shelters. Also, with nighttime temperatures now in the 30s, there needs to be a cold weather shelter in place. I'm not qualified to argue legal or financial aspects of this issue, although as a property owner in Aberdeen, I'm happy for a share of my taxes to be used for housing solutions, and I don't think it's illegal to be unhoused or to help people in need. My argument is that when people don't have the basic necessities of life and they come to their neighbors for help, we help them. That is the absolute least that we should do. Even when churches or the city provide space for tents, really nothing more than a semi-safe place to lay down out of the rain, it takes a political struggle just to achieve that most basic level of assistance. Before you take away that space, the only space some people have, please be sure that our neighbors, our sisters and brothers have somewhere to be. Thank you, Steve Swanson, Ward 3, Aberdeen. Number 3, Mayor Shave and City Council. The reason for my writing to you today is to express my gratitude and commend Mayor Shave, City Crews, and APD for their decisive action this past weekend in working to clear debris and mitigate potential fire risk at the illegal encampment in the City Hall parking lot. It is my sincere hope that future measures will be enacted to clean, restore, and secure the area and others like it that are springing up throughout the city. Thank you. Sincerely, Casey Ann Morrison, Ward 1. Now I will stop from you listening to me for a moment and see if we have anyone here that wants to speak. Looks like we had Nancy, I'm sorry if I say it wrong, Cool. She is here, and Nancy, I will go ahead and move you to allow you to speak. Oops. Just kidding. Where'd you go? There you are, Nancy. Nancy, if you can unmute, you have the floor for 3 minutes.
Nancy Kyle, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Okay. Yeah. Anyway, I'm from Summit Lake, but I'm speaking for the Friends of the Aberdeen Museum. Currently, there are more than a dozen museums drawing visitors in Grays Harbor. Why should they add an Aberdeen museum? It has to be a unique draw. The design of the Armory Museum took over 2 years to be finalized, and it's now been 3 since we lost it, and there's no proposed plan. We recognize that museum concepts and designs have to be modified to fit the size and the layout of the final location, but planning is needed now. At the Museum Now meeting, we asked, what is your vision of the new museum's direction and objective? People shared there and later, music, art, tribal heritage, founders, architecture, fire history, and many more. It's really limitless because Aberdeen has a wonderful history. But things like fire trucks take a lot of space and large entry doors. There needs to be a plan. You should and can ask the City Museum Board to interact with the public and give you a plan that you and the community can get behind. Without movement toward a goal, the museum will flounder. I have a little bit of time left, and I'd like to add a few of my own thoughts that are not authorized by the Friends. The former members of this council and the City Museum Board put together a great set of rules of procedure and detailed expectations for the board. Yet they seem to be reluctant or feel blocked from stepping forward to fulfill those responsibilities, particularly public interaction. The format being used at their meetings since the fire does not allow public involvement throughout the meeting, as was described in the procedures, is described in the procedures. You would do yourselves and the board a great favor by reaffirming your expectations. Only you and the mayor speak for the city, but as a volunteer board, they can and should have direct community contact and develop and sell a plan to you and the public, accept items into the collection, and fulfill other responsibilities outlined in the procedures. And I feel confident that you have a great board and they will do that with your backing. These processes are complicated the way they're being done right now, and it's leading to things like one former city councilman who gave their entire collection to another museum. There needs to be changes. Thanks for hearing me.
Thank you, Nancy. And now we will move back to reading a few more. To Mayor Pete and the council members. I would like to thank Mayor Pete for his diligence in the weekend cleanup of the parking lot behind the city hall. It is becoming a fire hazard as well as a public biohazard situation. I would also like to thank the city crew and the Aberdeen Police Department for their continued efforts. The camp should have been completely vacated at this point, as the campers have had over 2 years to find alternative living accommodations. I'm appalled at the political backdrops of some of the council members. I don't care what cause, who wants to support. The council positions are supposed to be nonpartisan, and personal causes should be left at the door. One more item is that I have seen absolute disrespect of our mayor at the last few meetings. We are witnessing rude comments towards him, eye-rolling, and complete disregard for the positions of the council seats. It's an embarrassment to the city as a whole to witness such childish behavior. I would ask the council to please refrain from this type of behavior. Thank you, Debbie Piercini, Ward 5. From Norman Klein, Ward 3, Aberdeen, Washington. I wanted to thank the Mayor, Public Works Department, and Fire Police staff involved in the recent cleanup of dangerous fire debris at the Tassel and other areas around the city. I'm very encouraged to see positive changes happening in our city, despite a hostile, unproductive city council. I apologize to those city council who are not against cleaning up our city and finding positive solutions to difficult problems. To those of you who continue to be an impediment to these developments, you seriously have to review your purpose for being on this council. I would encourage you to resign or change your ways, because starting next year, there's going to be radical changes to the present city council. Then he signs again, sincerely, Norman Klein for City Council, Ward 3, Position 5 candidate. Then it looks like we have one more person that would like to speak. Just a moment. Carmen. There you are. Carmen, if you are able to unmute, you have the floor for 3 minutes. There you are.
Hi, everybody. To the Mayor, City Council, and citizens of Aberdeen, my name is Carmen Noguer, and I am the Board Secretary of Whole Harbor. We established this nonprofit in 2019 to improve the economic, physical, and social well-being of Grays Harbor and its citizens. Our initial project was establishing Aberdeen Sunday Market. Our next project was adopting Cultivating Roots, which is a community garden that teaches gardening and provides space to low-income families. This comment is to express the intention of Whole Harbor to apply for the county grant funding to open a temporary emergency cold weather shelter in Aberdeen. We realize that there is an immediate need this year, and it fits into our mission. There are currently hundreds of people who sleep outdoors in our city every night, while chronic health conditions, malnutrition, substance use, and mental illness are all dangerous circumstances in any situation. Freezing temperatures compound these challenges and have proven fatal to those who cannot find shelter during the coldest hours of the night. What we are asking for as support from the city is to help us by doing whatever is within your power to ensure that no members of the community die from cold exposure this season. Please consider loosening, lightening, altering, or creating a stay of certain restrictions and regulations within the city that prevent the pursuit of safety and survival in dire circumstances. Specific examples may include, but not limited to, allowing for flexibility with the ordinance of addresses first floor sleeping in spaces in downtown. Not only could the owner of such vacant property have the chance to make income this season, but this ordinance makes it incredibly difficult to comply with ADA accessibility. I understand that local businesses and residents will have concerns. We are all concerned. Without a shelter and more transitional housing, people in need of housing will continue to take shelter in areas where they are liable to be arrested for trespassing. Providing a safe, warm location where hot food and drink can be shared, clothes can be dried, and where people can take a brief rest and reprieve from harsh conditions will reduce health and safety risks to not only the homeless community, but also surrounding businesses. Time is of the essence where this is concerned. We have less than a week to submit our application. It's due on Monday, the 18th, and not much time after that to do everything else. We plan on opening as soon as possible if funding comes on November 1st. We're asking for the city's support of our proposal and people in need by working to remove some of the roadblocks. People's lives depend on it, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Carmen. Now I have two more. Please relay my following comments to the City Council this evening. Hats off to Mayor Pete Shea for taking command of our city and not allowing the anarchist-supported homeless not to take over our town more than they already have. They are the minority and we are the majority that pays taxes. We want clean and safe streets. We do not want addicts and homeless trashing our city anymore. We do not want addicts having a meltdown and becoming violent towards our citizens and children. We do not want homeless and addicts throwing their trash all over our streets, waterways, and green spaces. If they can't be respectful and do their share to take care of this town, they need to move on to Olympia or Seattle. This town is too small to support the same liberal policies that come out of Seattle, Olympia, and Portland. These policies also have a constant failure rate and are nothing but money pits. Keep up the good work, Mayor, and don't back down. We have your back. Sincerely, Paul Leach. And October 13th, 2021, Mayor and council members. Our community has many people living in poverty without opportunity for good jobs or a home or enough quality food to ensure the health of their families. In the past, many of us have blamed these people for their circumstances, emphasizing their mistakes while focusing on our own hard work, claiming that explains the differences in our circumstance. We've worked hard so we have secure homes, jobs, food, and healthcare. They have made mistakes so they do not have those things. It does not take much digging to uncover the problem with this oversimplification. We have all made mistakes. Some of us have paid dearly for our mistakes, while others of us have received chance after chance to get life right. Some of us come into this world with every advantage, while others of us have multiple strikes against us right from the start. All the major religions and wisdom traditions have come to similar conclusions when faced with big challenges. There is no us and them. There is only one human family, and our fates are deeply connected to one another and to the world in which we live. Another principle runs through all these religions and traditions. That is the mandate to love not only our own, but we were told to love all people. That is our most reliable guide in all things, regardless of our religion or ethnicity or traditions. In this challenging time, there's an opportunity for us to choose who will be in the future. We can reject oversimplification of complex problems. We can refuse to see anyone as outsider or less deserving than we are. We can choose to see every person as human, worthy of the same care and compassion we desire for ourselves and our loved ones. We can choose to orient our community life around the well-being of all people. All people need a safe, dry, warm place to live. All people deserve a space to which they can retreat to rest and be refreshed for the challenges of a new day. All people deserve respect simply for being human beings. Many communities have found that when they begin to work on difficult problems from that compassionate perspective, the problems are manageable. There is hope for the hopeless, people living without homes, for the addicted, and for the homeowner who longs for a beautiful town to call home. Please do not take any actions that demean the humanity of one group of people while in the name of representing homeowners. To represent us all, you are responsible for working with us to find solutions that make this a better community for all of us. Let us work together, government, religious communities, service organizations, and professionals to make Aberdeen the healthy, hopeful place that it has the potential to be. Signed, Reverend Val Metropolis, 3rd Ward resident. And I have 2 more. Are either April or Joanne in the attendees, and were they interested in speaking, or were theirs to be read? No, April. Just a moment. Always a delay. April, if you can unmute, you have the floor for 3 minutes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Mine was very quick. I thought it was going to be read, but I would like to see Coastal Community Action, Chehalis River Mutual Aid, CCAP, the mayor, all of us pull together instead of fighting one another. It's 35 degrees out. It's wet out. It's cold out. We took you to court 3 years ago, federal court 3 years ago, on how you guys, the city, was treating the less fortunate. I have been sitting back for the last couple years, quietly watching, and I have been disgusted with what's been going on, not just with the mayor, with all the organizations nitpicking, fighting, putting down each other, discriminating towards each other, threatening each other, showing guns. It's got to stop, people. It's got to stop. I have told you numerous times throughout the years, Aberdeen could make a difference if you just put the hate aside. Put your hate aside. We were all born by our mother. You know, we will die with no riches, no home. And that's what the homeless have now. They have nothing. So why are you guys so hateful with people that have nothing? Pete, I do got to say, Mr. Mayor, I had some respect for you a little bit, but Saturday, you lost it. To sit in your truck and watch them destroy those pallets that were donated by citizens of Aberdeen, and you sat in your truck and watched. I thought that was very cowardly. And a mayor should have pride in what his title is as a mayor, not sit in his truck and hide. You can be better than that, Mr. Mayor. And to be so hateful, don't let hate win, Mr. Mayor. You have Council members, you have an attorney. You have your own thought. Don't let soap run your mayorship. Soap is not in the office. You are, Mr. Mayor, not soap. And let's just put hate aside and try and work together. It is cold out and there is no shelter this year. The county turned down a $1.6 million grant, a grant.
April, that is your 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we have one more to be read. To whom it may concern, the camp behind the city hall is seemingly growing again. I see. I drive by quite a bit and have noticed over the past month or so how much it has developed into a small village. Why is this happening in our community? I watched the video from a guy the other night that was filming the removal of pallets and was disgusted by the words that were coming out of his mouth aimed at our mayor and law officers. Like, who does he think he really is? I support getting the trash off the streets, and the people to choose to camp out there are not giving a crap about the citizens of Aberdeen. So why should we give a rip about them? I'm not a cold-hearted person, but enough is enough. The ones that protest the camp being torn down, Chehalis River Mutual Aid Network, why aren't they supplying a cold weather shelter? Isn't there some bleeding hearts that have land to spare and porta potties? City Council Member Ellis should put her money where her mouth is and get a porta potty with her own money. I'm sure they can pool their money together and get them off the streets. Signed, Joanne Burns, a concerned citizen. And that is our public comments for this evening.
Thank you. Committee chair report for finance, Council Member Catchman.
Good evening, everyone. Finance met tonight at 6 p.m. via Zoom. We discussed the items on the agenda, which include transferring some of our committed project funds over to the Washington State LGIP Investment Fund, and signing a contract related to our Pioneer Park Little League remodel. So with that, I will start out with the expenditures and payroll and move that we approve.
A second.
Motion was made and seconded to approve the expenditures and payroll. Deputy Clerk, will you take roll call, please?
Yes, a motion to approve accounts payable in the total amount of $2,083,475.38 and payroll in the total amount of $813,005.36. Check numbers 25253 through 25307 and 74749 through 74979. Wires 281 through 1281 through 1282 and 1284 through 1285. Conduct roll call. Andrews?
Yes.
Ellis?
Yes.
Francie?
Yes.
Gordon?
Yes.
Kochman?
Yes.
Mackey?
Yes.
Meskis?
Yes.
Richrod?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Shaw?
Yes.
Short?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, motion approved.
Thank you.
And next, under reports, we have a report from finance and the finance director recommending that the city council approve the investment authorization transfer of cash, $14 million, from the Bank of Pacific to the Washington State LGIP Fund to be invested until sometime as needed for the committed projects. I move we accept this report.
Second.
Motion was made and seconded to accept this report. Is there any discussion? Under discussion, Councilmember Meskis.
Thank you very much. Just for clarification, I noticed the report did say that funds can be withdrawn at pretty much any time. Are there any fees associated with a withdrawal before a certain amount of time, or are there any other investment fees that we need to know about?
Not that I'm aware of. I believe that that is how it's structured, so it's not tied like a bond would be. If you tried to cash out a bond early, you have to pay fees and fines. So the LGIP has made it so you don't have to do that.
Great, thank you.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
We had two, it sounded like two opposed. Motion carries.
All right. And finally, we have a report from Finance and the Parks Director recommending that the City Council authorize the mayor to sign the agreement with the Washington State Recreation and Conservation Office for project number 20-1355D. I move that we accept this report.
I second.
Motion was made and seconded to adopt this report. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
That's all from Finance tonight.
Thank you, Committee Chair Catchman.
Thank you.
Committee Chair report for Public Works, Councilmember Meskis.
Thank you very much. Public Works met yesterday via Zoom at our normal time. We were Rickless, but we made it through and got through our agenda items. We have a few along with the addition that I added earlier tonight. I hope everybody got the report in their email. And let's just get the ball rolling. So first we have a report from Public Works and the Public Works Director recommending that the Public Works Director shall be authorized to expend water reserves not to exceed $50,000 to enclose the southwest corner of City Hall, which is under the cantilever. I move we adopt this report.
Second.
Motion was made and second to adopt this report. Is there any discussion? Under discussion, Councilmember Ellis.
Yeah, I'd like to see a plan for the work. And I'm concerned that the amount requested isn't sufficient to make a project like that. And it would just be nice to actually see what is being proposed.
Okay. Any further discussion? Councilmember Meskis.
I'm actually going to defer to Rick. He popped on here right after Councilmember Ellis, so I think he might have some responses for her concern, and then I'd like to go after him.
You hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm curious what Liz's concern is. That's just an open-ended statement that she's concerned, but what is it that it's going to cost more than what we budgeted? Is that the concern?
Yeah, because it's a structure.
It's
and
not as okay. I'm sorry I wasn't there last night. I had a previous meeting that I couldn't get out. This is not a big structure, and it's not structural. It's just enclosing the area underneath the already established City Hall building under the cantilever. There's already a roof. There's no structural supports. It is 2 8-foot walls and a 12-foot wall. So you're looking at what 28 lineal feet of glass and aluminum, which when we priced it out last year was $55,000 to enclose the whole thing from one end of the building, or from the street all the way to the court. And we're doing maybe 20% of that. So you're asking for a plan, but that's what this money's for. It's to hire our on-call and get a plan. So this is that's everything. That's all encompassing. It's the aluminum, it's the glass, we're going to pour the concrete with our city staff. We're going to run the electricity with our city staff. There's two expenses basically, and that is enclosing it and the penetration through the building where it'll have to be saw cut. And that's where the plan comes in place. We'll have to hire a structural engineer, but that'll be about $5,000. So I believe 50,000 is more than enough. I actually added contingency money into it, but you're right. I don't have an estimate yet because part of that 50,000 is going to go into developing the plan.
Rick, that's very helpful. Thank you. We were also not clear at the Public Works Committee meeting on the use of the structure. It was mentioned that it might be used for people could drop off their water bill payments, and yet there's already the first floor intake for stuff like that.
Water payments will always go to the finance department. They handle the money. What happens is if somebody gets behind on their bill, then the water customer service, they handle shutoffs, but they also handle payment arrangement. For somebody that gets behind, we have provisions in our ordinance that allow us to help people get caught up. So they set those payment arrangements up. We're going to have a big issue with payment arrangements with all the people that are behind on water bills now because of the governor's mandate. So we're going to be dealing with some big issues with that. But yes, anytime we set up a payment arrangement, then we send them to finance to make their payment. So this will actually simplify it. They'll be right across the hall from each other. So it actually be a better situation.
Okay, thank you very much. That helps.
Councilmember Meskis.
Thank you very much. Just under discussion, the only issue I have with this is that it would create a supplemental budget, and we're just about to go into budget review. So I'm just curious, is this something that is, is it necessary to start it right now, or can it wait and be added to next year's budget and go through the budget process?
I put it in the budget for next year. So yes, it could wait until next year. Our problem is that the second floor is full. We just hired a code enforcement person. I mean, we have a number of offices empty, but those jobs are out for, to be hired right now. So we just hired a code enforcement person that displaced my water customer service rep. Now that person has no office. So now we've set them up in our committee room because during this pandemic, we haven't been using our meeting room. So, but at some point we're going to need that meeting room back. And we're hiring an engineer 3. We're hiring another city engineer that will fill the city engineer's office. We don't have space for all the bodies. So that's the problem. There's no desks. So the
Councilmember Andrews.
All right.
If you guys notice, I understand, staffing is very tight up there. But if you also notice that it wouldn't be a supplemental to the general fund, it's to the water fund. So the supplemental is just a paperwork thing in this instance, is that it's not affecting the general fund. It's coming out of those funds that are strictly for the water department. Is what the right, Rick?
Well, I actually put it in the general fund in the budget next year. I proposed to take it do a supplemental out of the water department reserves for this year. It is the city hall facility, so that is part of facilities, but there's no reason why water department can't pay for the remodel because it's the water customer service office. So yeah, I proposed to spend water reserves in the meantime, but I did put it into the general fund facilities budget for 2022.
Any further discussion? Councilmember Ellis.
Rick, what's the availability of office spaces in like some of the satellite water department facilities or other public works facilities?
We have available office space down at our Public Works Admin Center, which is in the water department main office. The problem is that in order for water customer service can't go down there conveniently. At least it'd be convenient to us, but it would be not convenient to the public. So we would be setting up payment arrangements in an office that's 2 miles away from City Hall, and then sending them back to City Hall, which is locked down, to make their payments, and dealing with 2 offices 2 miles apart. Yeah, it could be done. It's just not convenient to the citizens that are trying to make those arrangements.
I was just thinking of like some of the engineering positions. If space is tight at City Hall, could they have their office somewhere else?
Is it possible? Yes. We could do that. We've, I think the guys typically would like to stay in the office and be around each other and being able to trade ideas and talk projects out, face to face. Through this pandemic, we've realized that there is much better, I don't know, we're much better equipped to work remotely from home or work from a satellite office than we ever thought we could be. They do lose resources. They lose a lot of the resources that we have, all of our documents in the vault. But we are right now, we're trying to go to a digital environment in public works and deal just digitally, take our bills through email, pay them digitally, get rid of all the paper. So, I mean, we're trying to do that right now. We're making steps to do that.
I'm hearing that there's growing pains just generally staff-wise with city staff. And this sounds like a good question to toss over to our contractor who's helping us with the capital projects plan. Just mentioning that so that we can get clarity for the longer term, but in the shorter term, it sounds to me like having that extra space at City Hall is probably the way to go.
One more thing that hasn't been mentioned is there's space there now. That's been, when we looked at it, it was determined that it was too small for the needs of this particular office, but it's basically wasted space as it is. So by doing this, it'll turn that into actual usable space. Any other discussions? Councilmember Shaw.
Well, actually, Councilmember Ellis brought up something that is on my mind, and that I'm having trouble envisioning what is proposed just in writing and verbally, but also we're spending a boatload of money for capital facilities planning. And I just am having trouble seeing the dilemma. Not that I don't support or understand that we want to serve the public, but I don't think I can support this tonight. So if it's actually going to go to a vote, I'm not gonna vote in favor, because we're investing a lot of money in getting some high-powered people to help us capital facilities plan. And even though we have people coming in positions, some of them are filling vacancies. And I don't know that we used to have a lot more employees than we do now. So I'm not sure why we're so tight on space. So I just have some questions that can't be answered in a one-off report. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Councilmember Gordon.
Okay, I just want people to know that I support Rick. We're talking and arguing over pennies again. This is something that's really definitely needed. Let's get concentration on the big budget coming up and not argue over these nitpicking little things that we're doing right now. I think this is really needed at the city, and I'm going to vote yes. I'm so supporting Rick and them right now. Thank you.
Thank you.
I support Rick too.
Councilmember Meskis.
Thank you very much. I just have a quick question for Director Sanger. Would it impede you at all to if we tabled this until the next meeting so you could address some of Councilmember Ellis's and Shaw's concerns and then bring it back at the next meeting?
We can wait till next year. All I was trying to do is get ahead of it because we are right now at a point where we don't have places for people. That's not an issue. But what I do need is I need to know what those specific questions are so that I can address them, right? So the concern is that it's not enough money, but we're not prepared to do a detailed engineer's professional estimate without spending some money to find out what it's going to cost to do the penetration in the wall and do the structural support for the door that's has to go in. Now we can come up with the amount of money for the window structure, the aluminum framing. That the concern was that everything is such a long lead now. I mean, we're being told that if we don't order our trucks next week for 2022, that we are not going to get any trucks in 2022, and we'll have to wait till 2023, even if they're budgeted for 2022. So it's over a year lead time to get pickup trucks. So I mean, that's the way things are now. So we were just trying to get ahead of it so that we could get the stuff ordered, get it in on its way here, so that that city staff could do this. The city staff's going to be installing all this. But yes, whatever, if you have detailed questions that you want me to answer, we can absolutely address those.
Deanne, do you feel that it would be beneficial for us to table this until the next meeting so you could have your concerns addressed?
I'm comfortable with the will of the council. I've served on the Public Works Committee. I hope they know where my heart is and I support them, but I also have lobbied heavily for a year that we do some serious capital facilities planning and look at how we're, using our spaces. So I'm comfortable with the will of council.
Okay.
Council Member Ellis.
We also know that the plaza needs some work, and if Public Works crews were going to be there doing the construction on this new room project, could they be scheduled to also make repairs to the plaza so that when we invite people to come to City Hall, they've got a level, safe surface and not something that's all lumpy bumpy and upheaved and so forth?
The money that was it, we put some money into concrete for the plaza for 2021. What we put in was not enough, so we were going to phase it. We were going to do the section around the fountain, and then we were going to do the next section in 2022. As it turned out, when we brought that forward, you recall that you wanted to have some input in the design of that. So that delayed us a little bit, and our crews were really busy. So then we ended up with a water leak in City Hall. Water leak that wasn't planned, that spilled tens of thousands of gallons of water down through the floors. We had to have fans and dewatering and moisture meters. So all that money had to get paid someplace out of facilities. So we're a bottom line budget, and we transferred the money from the concrete for the plaza to pay for the water leak. It was not covered under insurance. So that money is gone. I put money into the budget for next year for the plaza again. The two are not similar, okay, because I can't pay for the plaza with water utility funds. Water utility funds have to be directed towards water department type facilities and functions. And as much as I make the reach, I don't think I can say that the concrete in front of City Hall is a water department function. So that's a facilities money, general fund, and I did ask for that in the budget. So
very good, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any final discussion? Seeing none. Councilmember Gordon.
when we have a vote here on this little thing we're working on, I'd like to have it be a roll call so I can see who stands where with Rick, if we could. Thank you.
Okay. Motion was made and seconded to approve this report. City Deputy Clerk, would you roll call this, please?
Yes. And just confirming this is roll call for Public Works Reports and Communications report number 1. Andrews?
Yes.
Ellis?
Yes.
Francie? Francie?
Francie?
Yes.
Gordon?
Yes.
Kochman?
Yes.
Mackey?
Yes.
Meskis?
Yes.
Rich Rod?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Shaw?
I don't think this is a referendum on how much I love Rick. I'm going to vote no.
Short?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Thank you. 11-1, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. The motion passes.
Okay, moving on. Next, we have a report from Public Works and the Public Works Director recommending that the Public Works Committee and the City Council shall declare vehicle number 22, a 1993 Freightliner dump truck, as surplus and authorize the Public Works Department to sell it at auction. I move we adopt this report.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded to adopt this report. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion carries.
All right, and next we have a report from Public Works and the Public Works Director recommending that the Public Works Director shall be authorized to take the necessary actions to create a secure private parking lot for the City of Aberdeen vehicles and equipment as described in the report, with an amount not to exceed a budget of $35,000. I move we adopt this report.
Second.
Motion was made and seconded to adopt this report. Is there any discussion? Councilmember Ellis.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm concerned about the nitpicking of money, and I would like to see this go into the facilities plan. I'm not convinced that there's an urgent need for this, and I'd just like to see it be part of a bigger plan to talk about parking for staff and visitors, as well as a discussion around how we support houseless people in our city.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
I am just kind of concerned what the necessary actions are.
Okay, any other discussion?
Yeah, right here, this is Frank Gordon. I just want you to know that I support Rick. Again, this is something that there's a need for right now, and it'll open up the parking in the front of the building for customers. So I think it's a win-win. It's a small amount of money. Thank you.
Anything else? Margot.
I'm just trying to picture how, if we ever get back into the building, where are all the council members going to have to park? Behind that fenced area?
No.
And that's just, I know it's a petty thing, but on the other hand, I'm trying to picture this.
Rick, did you want to comment?
Sure. The parking lot we're talking about is the employee parking lot, and what we need is, right now it's half full of tents, but what we need is a secure area where we can lock up city vehicles at night, because things are being stolen out of the backs of the pickups, and there's been some vandalism. So we need a place to put our pickups, and we have probably 10 city vehicles at night that are sitting out in the open every night. So we need a place to lock them up, and this would accomplish that. Now, nights of council meetings, that lot is usually empty anyway. So we've added 10 new parking spaces along, as when we did this exact same thing at the police department and secured their parking lot, and added that pass-through lane that goes through, where you turn left at the alley to go between the existing parking lot and the building. So there's 10 new parking spots there. We have more parking now than we ever have by adding those 10 spots. And this was just going to give us an opportunity to, it'll still be an employee parking during the day. What people will do is they'll pull their city vehicle out, park it out in the open, and leave the personal car there in its place. So it'll be utilized during the day for city employee parking, and utilized at night to protect city equipment that has been vandalized.
Where are they parking now?
We just park right next to the building.
Okay.
Councilmember Meskis.
Thank you. Unfortunately, you weren't able to answer some of the questions that we had during committee. But is there room, like at the water treatment facility, or other places that these can be parked, as opposed to behind City Hall? It sounds like, it just sounds like we should have other places already available for those vehicles to be parked and maintained.
I guess that would be a convenience factor, to have to report to work at a place other than where you work, get your city vehicle, take it to City Hall into the day, take your vehicle back to the shop, trade it out. Then there's always the case of when people are double using a vehicle. We have a number of vehicles that a bunch of people use. Who's bringing those down? Bottom line, yeah, there's always another way. So.
Any other discussion? Councilmember Andrews.
It is kind of unreasonable to ask city staff to park their vehicles so far away. I mean, in my opinion, because we just had a police officer shot in Shelton because somebody was hiding behind a vehicle. Just a couple of, Monday, Tuesday. And it was Tuesday. It was just yesterday. So, having that extra security is going to protect everybody. And we aren't losing the public parking that we had before. We're just securing the area where the employees park. So, I think it's a good
idea. Councilmember Shaw.
Yeah, I probably won't ask this right, and please don't ascribe any motive to my question, but just to be clear, right, we're talking about, is this a strategy for clearing out the tent camp? Because right now we're talking about fencing in a parking lot that currently has illegal campers on it. And so if we declare this as an area we need to secure, does that then mean that we've empowered, whoever to move the tent camp? And has this all been vetted by our corporation council that this is a strategy we can employ?
Go ahead, Rick.
The people that are in the parking lot are there based on it being a public facility. Now, it is city staff's contention that there are public facilities in the city that have been identified as places people can camp, and the parking lot is not one of them. It was never one of the spaces that was identified in the lawsuit. It was never identified in any of the documents we put together. Changing the parking lot from a public facility to a private facility absolutely does allow us to clear the parking lot and make it only city staff, city vehicles, city equipment. I'm not going to hide that from you. That is absolutely something that will happen.
Thank you. Anything else?
So the last part of my question was, has our corporation council agreed that this is a strategy we can employ?
Oh, I forgot you were here.
Council President Shaw, I have looked at the question of whether or not the city has the right to control its property and designate parking lots as it deems appropriate. I believe the city has that authority and can designate this for city vehicles only if it so chooses.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Hey.
City clerk, deputy city clerk, we're going to need a roll call vote on this issue.
This is roll call vote for Public Works Committee report number 3. Andrews?
Yes.
Ellis?
No.
Francie?
No.
Gordon?
Yes.
Kochman?
Yes.
Mackey?
Yes.
Meskis?
No.
Richrod? Richrod?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Shaw?
Yes.
Short?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
That's 9-3, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. The motion passes.
Okay. Next, we have a report from Public Works and the Public Works Director recommending that the mayor shall be authorized to sign a financial commitment letter for the BRIC grant request. I move we adopt this report.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded to adopt this report. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
And next we have a report from Public Works and the Public Works Director recommending that the City Council shall authorize the mayor to sign a resolution designating Rick Sanger, the Public Works Director, or his alternate, Patricia Soul, the Finance Director, to execute for and on behalf of the City of Aberdeen the application, grant agreement, and payment requests for the Washington Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities BRIC program grant application. I move we adopt this report.
Second.
Motion was made and seconded to adopt this report. Is there any discussion? John, did you have your hand up? Okay.
No, I did not.
Rick.
Just some background so everybody knows. This is the big one. This is what we've been driving towards. This is the $50 million grant application. So these are standard boilerplate items that the federal government wants us to sign. They send the document to us. We have to sign it basically to be eligible for the money. We made it through the first step and we're on to the full application. So we're hopeful. This is how we'll fund North Shore Levy. This in a direct appropriation from the state government. But this is our big one.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
And last on the reports, we have a report from Public Works and the Public Works Director recommending that the City Council shall authorize the mayor to sign The DOE Amendment 3 WQC-2020-ABERPW-00035 to finalize and close the loan. I move we adopt this report.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded to adopt this report. Is there any discussion? Councilmember Andrews.
Was this sent out? Was it sent out?
I asked Rick to send it out at the beginning of the meeting.
I sent it to the Public Works Committee. I didn't have everybody. I'm at home and I don't have access to my council member addresses. I guess I could have tried to remember everybody since you're all right there in front of me. But yes, this is just we came to you before you'd asked for permission to get this loan. This is just the price actually went down a little bit, and it sets the amortization table, basically what our payments are for the next, I think it's 20 years. So anyway, but yes, I can send it to you right now, Tawny.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor.
And this was budgeted, so in the report it shows that. Rick had another comment.
One more thing. The reason this is coming so late is that we got the paperwork yesterday, and the first payment's due in 4 days. So we got it yesterday, and if we don't get it through council tonight, then we're late on our first payment, which is absolutely ridiculous, but that's the way it works sometimes, I guess.
Thank you for your explanation.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
And under resolutions, we have a resolution designating Rick Sanger, the Public Works Director, or his alternate, Patricia Soul, the Finance Director, to execute for and on behalf of the City of Aberdeen, the application, grant agreement, and payment requests for the Washington Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities BRIC Program grant application. I move that we adopt this resolution.
Second.
Motion is made seconded to adopt this resolution. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
And that is all from Public Works.
Thank you.
And that will be resolution 2021-21.
Oh, thank you. Public Safety Committee Chair Report, Councilmember Andrews.
Hello. Sorry about you stick something like a piece of candy in your mouth and you can't talk around it. Yeah, that's what happened. All right, so we met tonight and we had reports from both the police department and the fire department. Let's start with the fire department first. So there was 504 total calls in September. 255 of those, which is 50.6%, were concurrent calls for service, which meant that there were multiple calls at the same time. And Hoquiam experienced the same thing in September 34% of the time, which is the reason why the RFA is coming to everybody's ballot. And there you go. If you need more information, go to the website, or you can reach out to any of us and we'd be happy to discuss it with you. As was mentioned in the committee of the whole, the fire chief is in active communication with Community Hospital regarding their diversion status due to no staffing or no beds available. Because it is negatively impacting the fire department operations and their ability to provide patient care in a timely manner. As Liz, Councilwoman Ellis alluded, if you take an ambulance out of service, there's a big gap there. So, and then if we move over to the police department, Officer Chris Rathburn was promoted to patrol sergeant effective October 14th. He has been a police officer since 1994. And we also had Officer Brendan King graduate from the Washington State Criminal Justice Training Center or Academy on October 7th, just this week. You guys all may have seen the report about the 2 officers that were injured in that DUI incident. An arrest occurred prior in the week. Both are improving. One is back to full duty, the other is not. During the month of September, the VIPs received training on the use of the speed advisory equipment, and they'll be using that to manually measure. For this month of September, they contributed 91.5 hours of time. So far for 2021, they have contributed 1,399.5 hours. For the month of September, it was busier than August. APD handled 2,884 service requests. And in August, they had 2,902. So there's quite a bit of difference there. Yeah. So don't forget the Great Shakeout is next Thursday, October 21st, starting at 10:21 a.m. If you need more information on that, I'm sure we'll be happy to provide it to you. So on the city agenda tonight, we're amending the current public camping ordinance. Now, this does not affect the areas on the map that we've been giving out for the past couple of years that shows the areas that people are allowed to camp. That, as was alluded to in that, lawsuit that was alluded to earlier in the meeting. Those areas are not affected by this public camping ordinance, but it is giving a little more teeth. When it comes to, I did a lot of research back when I did the sit-lie ordinance and the solicitation ordinance regarding that Boise Martin. And one of the things about that is that you need to be really specific in your details. And that's what we've done with the camping ordinance. We've just made it a little more specific. And so with that, we will move to our agenda item. So there's a report from Public Safety and the Chief of the Police recommending that the City Council approve the first reading of amended AMC 12.46 public camping to help address the public camping issues mentioned in the report. I move we accept this report.
Bertrand, second.
Motion was made and seconded to accept this report. Is there any discussion? Councilmember Shaw.
Well, I would just say that I'm glad this is a first reading, but I also know the extreme attention that Councilmember Andrews has paid to this issue. So I thank you for your explanation, because this is one of those times where, as a council member, I am going to defer to the expertise of another chair and trust your guidance. So thank you.
And Chief Shoemate is here if anybody has any questions for him.
Any other discussion? Councilmember Ellis.
Yes, thank you. I had one question, and that is the way this is worded, that it basically car camping would not be allowed on public property or in the right of way, except as authorized under, I think 2.60 applies to all of the different areas. Could someone refresh my memory as to what that allows? And could we add, well, we could, but I would like to see us add a provision that allows for somebody to be able to procure a permit for car camping that allows them to be in the right of way for.
Well, I'm going to defer to Chief Shoemate. There are, or maybe we'll have Attorney Myers, but I know that there is some precedent for car camping that probably supersedes anything we do anyway. But
yes, that's correct.
Yeah, first, if I'll provide just some input, and then perhaps if Attorney Myers has some additional comments he can share. But I think to the first part with respect to where camping is allowed, if we have no overnight shelter, which of course that is the challenge currently for the city of Aberdeen, then camping is allowed. And as council member Tawny Andrews made mention, throughout our right-of-ways throughout the city of Aberdeen, providing that it doesn't hinder our vehicular or pedestrian traffic. The Public Works had put together a map, as council member Andrews made mention 2 years ago, that highlighted the areas where actually full tents could be erected and still not interfere with that right of way. Of course, the challenge, as I highlighted in the committee report, is we also completely decriminalized that statute, which really, for the most part, made it ineffective for police to address the challenges that we're currently experiencing. As it relates to vehicles, that's a different situation. We have other codes that deal with vehicles. So I think the codes are relevant for the general purpose of whether it's parking and where the parking may occur. However, if an individual is homeless and living within their vehicle, then there is case law for which the police department would follow. It falls under the Homestead Act. And so really those things are handled differently, and we're doing that now, given the state Supreme Court ruling on that. Attorney Myers, did you have anything further to add on that part?
A couple things. This proposed ordinance would not change where it is illegal or how it is illegal to camp. It would simply make it a misdemeanor in certain areas. It would not make it a misdemeanor in portions of any street right of way that are not expressly reserved for vehicular or pedestrian travel, which is those areas that we have been handing out since the lawsuit several years ago. So it really doesn't change the legality of car camping or not. And I think you're correct that the public parking ordinance, which is going to be coming before you shortly, has provisions in it that deal with car camping more specifically. And parking in parking areas that turns into essentially car camping and taking up those spaces. The City of Seattle versus Long case is a very complicated case dealing with the ability to impound, the ability to impose impound charges upon a person when their vehicle is being used as a home. It doesn't prevent you from impounding for overtime, but it may prevent you from collecting the charges in order to incurred when you impound it. So it's a very complicated case. This particular ordinance simply makes it a misdemeanor in most of these areas, and that is necessary in order to have accountability for those people who are in areas and are refusing to leave areas where camping is not allowed, such as publicly owned property to which they are not allowed access, public buildings, water storage tanks, well sites, stormwater ponds, and other secured properties. That would be one example of a place where you could not remove them without having a misdemeanor sanction. And I would also point out that this brings your code into line with most of the other cities that I have seen who continue to have misdemeanor sanctions on the books, but don't enforce them in all areas of the city when shelter is unavailable.
Any other discussion?
Attorney Myers, questions? I have a question.
Councilmember Andrews.
Which I should have asked in committee, but I didn't. And since Attorney Myers is here, I'd like to ask him. Hey, does this allow us to, at some point, be able to enforce the sit-by ordinance? Are we still off on that one?
It doesn't change the when you can enforce things because it doesn't amend Chapter 045. But and what it does is for those areas that are outside the traveled area for vehicular or pedestrian traffic, where we're telling people that is where you can be, we don't enforce that when shelter is unavailable. If we get to a time when shelter is available, you could then enforce that even in those areas. However, under this amendment, the sanction for those areas would be that it is a civil infraction, class 4 civil infraction, and a $25 ticket.
Thank you. Thank you. I just wanted that clarification of where we stand with that, because I'm sure that members of the public and such may want to know that. Okay.
Understood.
Councilmember Ellis.
Thank you. So in the cover report about this proposed amendment, it references the example of the Tassel, the former location of Tassel, as well as the Tesla lot. And I know that there are people who are living in vehicles at the Tesla lot. My understanding of if a shelter is in operation, once it reaches capacity and people are turned away, then we would essentially be defaulting back to the code that exists as if there weren't a shelter available. Is that right?
I'm not sure I understood your question completely.
Let me try again. I'm sorry. So if Aberdeen is fortunate enough to get a cold weather shelter, and it has a capacity of say 25 people, and it maxes out the 25 spaces available, then it's considered closed, and we wouldn't be citing campers with a misdemeanor because the shelter is not available to them.
Actually, if I may answer that. So Councilmember Ellis, last year is a perfect example. We had a cold weather shelter that which was obviously for the safety of our homeless was very much appreciated. And even some of my officers had given rides to individuals who were in doorways of businesses to that location. That really doesn't change the situation for us. I will tell you, rarely do we make an arrest for criminal trespass, and issuing citations for criminal trespass are also fairly rare. Our normal daily routine for private property areas, which encompasses most of our business openings, is the day shift officers will make their rounds, contact individuals. Usually we get a number of calls. That's why you see our call volume so high. And then officers will contact the individuals and say, hey, you're not allowed to be here. It's trespassing. You need to move along. And normally they move along. If they don't, then officers have the discretion to issue a citation for that individual for not leaving the private business or private property. We don't have that tool for us on public property at this time, and that is really the challenge. I think my officers normally are very good at moving people along from areas that they're not supposed to be, with de-escalating the situation when necessary and not elevating this. I'm here to tell you, we do not have room in the city jail for most misdemeanors. Usually most of them are in felony level statuses. So again, I guess I'm going to just reiterate, rarely do we issue or make custodial arrests for criminal trespass in these matters. So cold weather shelter really is not going to change anything for us.
And this would give you that tool at many publicly owned properties, but it would not give you that tool in those areas of the right of way that we have pointed out on the map that people would still be allowed to be, especially when there aren't shelter space available.
I haven't been very happy with the map. It puts people right in the heart of downtown, adjacent to the sidewalk, in doorways of businesses. And
Councilmember Ellis, that's getting off track of this resolution we're discussing.
That's
just another matter.
But it's all related in
to
that
homeless, but it's another matter what we're discussing.
But very pertinent to this amendment.
Get to your point then, please.
The homeless people would love to be in a place where they're not on city property illegally. And I would like us to come up with an alternative place where they can be, so that our police aren't having to do a lot of follow-up, and they're not being hassled, and they can get on with their lives and hopefully find a way out of the situations that they are in.
Thank you. Councilmember Meske.
Thank you very much. I think we know what the target of this ordinance change is. There's no hiding it. I think the timing is incorrect. I think that, without having any kind of alternative shelters or anywhere for our unsheltered population to go, making a change to the ordinance like this is just out of time. It's at the wrong time. I'm really uncomfortable changing this. That's all I really wanted to say.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the resolution?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Hey.
No.
No.
Roll call.
Deputy Clerk, would you do a roll call vote, please?
It's just on the report, right?
On the report.
Yes, roll call for the public safety report number 1. Andrews?
Yes.
Ellis?
No.
Francie?
No.
Gordon?
Yes.
Kochman?
Yes.
Mackey?
No.
Meskis?
No.
Richrod?
I'm going to vote yes, but council comment period is coming up.
Ross?
Yes.
Shaw?
Yes.
Short?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
That's 8-4, Mr. Mayor.
Motion passes.
And to be clear, that just passes your first reading.
Exactly.
That was just the report, right?
Right.
So now we're doing the first reading.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So, and I'm so glad that the candy's out of my mouth, so I don't sound like I'm talking through bricks. Okay. So now we move on to the ordinances. So the first reading of bill number 21-08, an ordinance amending Aberdeen Municipal Code section 12.46.050 regarding penalties for violation of public camping ordinance. I move we accept the first reading.
Richrod, second.
Motion is made and seconded to approve the first reading of this ordinance. Any further discussion? Councilmember Ellis.
I'll keep it short. I just see this as an effort to criminalize homelessness without providing reasonable options.
Councilmember Meskis.
Thank you. I'd just like to request a roll call vote, just preempting it.
Thank you. Any other discussion? City Clerk or Deputy City Clerk, would you do roll call vote, please?
Yes, a roll call vote on public safety, section D, ordinance, first reading of bill number 21-08. Andrews.
Yes.
Ellis.
No.
Francie.
No.
Gordon.
Yes.
Kochman.
Yes.
Mackey.
You're on mute, Mr. Mackey.
I'm sorry, no.
Thank you. Meskis.
No.
Retrod.
Yes.
Ross.
Yes.
Shaw.
Yes.
Short.
Yes.
Taylor.
Yes.
That's 8-4, Mr. Mayor.
The first reading of bill number 21-08 is passed. So the second reading will be a public hearing. That'll be at the next meeting. Okay.
That's it for public works. Or
Thank
sorry,
you.
public safety. I was public safety one.
Trying to take my
Thank
job,
you.
Tawny.
Next item is special agenda items. Council President Shaw.
Thank you, Mayor. We do have one special agenda item. It comes to us from our Parks Director, and she is offering us an informational report, and no action is requested at this time. It is a report from the Aberdeen Board of Museum and History. The board approved a recommendation to the Aberdeen City Council to support the city's interest in purchasing a proposed building in downtown Aberdeen to be used for museum purposes. The board wanted to go on record in support of the mayor and the city council pursuing this matter. I don't think action is required by the council. And so I believe that concludes special agenda items.
Thank you. City Council comment period. Councilmember Maskey.
Thank you very much. I'm going to try to keep this short. I know it's getting late. First, I'd just like to say, a lot of times during meetings like this, we have some opposition in our voting opinions, and I think that's actually healthy within our council, and it is not a reflection on anybody. It's not personal. It's just us making our feelings on a situation very clear and voting in that way. So I just want to make sure everybody knows that, this is not a personal attack on any department heads or anything like that. When we disagree, and that's healthy. Second, given the wonderful public comment by Carmen Nogar of Whole Harbor, earlier today, I had distributed a draft resolution supporting their proposal to the county. And what I would like to do is, pending legal review, I would like to make a motion to pass that resolution.
Motion has been made and seconded to pass a resolution supporting Whole Harbor.
Pending legal review.
Pending legal review. Is there any discussion? One of the things. Go ahead.
To not be part of this conversation. I volunteer with Whole Harbor, and I also run the community garden, which isn't necessarily paid directly through the market, but I am compensated slightly from the market sales.
Any other discussion? Councilmember Katchman.
I had heard during public comment that there may be modifications or some sort of exception that might be need to be made to our permitting process. So I wonder if that is of any concern to legal right now.
I don't think they have a site, so I don't think it is, but I could be wrong.
They don't have a site yet, so.
And that's not a requirement. It was just a suggestion for how the city can be to help facilitate a shelter in the downtown area anyway.
Any other
If it winds up in
discussion?
downtown.
Council Member, President Shaw.
So I didn't get to see any of that email trail until just before the meeting. I think you all saw me hop on just barely in time. But I did pick up that the mayor was sharing with us that that's one proposal that we know about, but that more proposals might be forthcoming. So should we be picking up proposal before all proposals have even been presented to the county? This council is strongly on record as wanting an emergency shelter and a cold weather shelter. But I was just wondering, Mayor Shave, if you could share with this council, to what extent has there been any movement at the county level to really, you know, take seriously this need we have for an emergency shelter so we're not, you know, clogging up our sidewalks with tents?
The money is there available. Cassie Lynch has been working hard on this. As soon as the next Monday is the final days for the RFQs, and the county will be looking at them all. We'll find out if there's any others that were submitted, and they'll get going on it right away. That's what Cassie said. So.
Can I just add one more thing that I meant to say? In response to the idea of the first floor thing, I totally agree with that feedback. For the record, I don't understand how we can have motels that house people for up to 30 days on a first floor, but yet use the first floor prohibition to have turned down other proposals for emergency shelters. That is definitely fair comment, and I think we should seriously have community development look at that, and to what extent is that inhibiting our ability to achieve and have an emergency shelter.
And I also want to, Council President Shaw, also want to look at whether or not recent state legislation, which requires you to accept transitional housing and certain forms of shelter, might preempt you from enforcing that if you are allowing the same thing for hotels in certain areas, because that's also been enacted by the legislature.
Thank you. Councilmember Maskis.
Thank you. So I was at the county commissioners workshop on this issue, and where they mentioned they'd put this request out previously and got 0 responses. And you know, we've seen this happen before. You know, the last shelter request that they put out, they got 1 response, and that was killed off by being tabled. So, you know, the likelihood of them getting more responses, you know, it'd be great if they got a few, but, you know, we have an organization that is local to Aberdeen that's willing to step up. And I think that, you know, putting our support behind them would be good. The other thing is that we're not going to have another actionable council meeting before the commissioners vote on this. So even if we were to wait until Monday, any resolution we would put together to send them would not get there in time to really make any difference on, you know, on their opinion.
I don't, my feeling is, I don't know why it would be on any issue, not just this, but I don't understand how it would be fair to do something like this before all the cards are played. I mean, we don't even know if there's going to be more. Maybe there's not, but if there is, shouldn't we be giving them all a fair opportunity? Councilmember Andrews.
So this is going to be really hard for me to say, but I agree with the mayor, and that I feel like we might be showing undue favoritism for one organization when, like the mayor said, we don't have all of them. And as Council President Shaw stated, as a council, we have already put forth our vocal that we want the cold weather shelter. So, you know, I'm pretty sure that if the county doesn't know that by now, then they're all deaf, because we've been saying it for years that we want a shelter, period. So,
Councilmember Ellis.
Thank you. I've also had some concerns about if there were more than one applicant. We would want to be supportive of all applicants to provide this service. But I would still like us to pass a resolution that Whole Harbor or anybody else could attach to their proposal, because it doesn't hurt for county council to hear from us that this is a really important issue and a desperate, dire need. So one way.
If you wanted to do it that way, would be my suggestion.
May I propose an amendment?
Send a resolution of support for a cold weather shelter.
So may I propose an amendment to this resolution as it's been drafted? And it's real easy, and that's just take out any reference to Whole Harbor in the title, and on and then the last set of whereases before, now, therefore, take that out so that it reads just generally, and then we're good to go.
Second.
Motion was made and seconded to amend the resolution. Any further discussion?
So if I'm understanding correctly, we are amending the resolution to support a qualified proposal for a cold weather shelter. Is that correct?
Correct.
Then thank you.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. So I'll accept the motion on the amended resolution.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded to approve the resolution as amended. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Any other city council comments? Councilmember Richrod.
Thank you. I was just as upset by the events that had been spoken of in letter and voice as others were. And the problem I see, I voted in favor of a change to the ordinance and the first reading of this, but the fact remains that we're essentially telling people you can't camp here, but you can camp over there under the same conditions. There's still no shelter, and that, of course, is largely beyond the purview of the city to be able to afford that. And the county had the money in their hand and gave it back. There are grants coming up for shelters through other organizations, but they are quite a while in coming. They're not going to be in time for a cold weather shelter. But and my other concern was that there seems to be a real concentration on fewer than a dozen campers in the parking lot behind City Hall. And as justified as that may be, in my talks with the Grace Harbor Health Department, specifically Cassie Lenz, there is not enough shelter space currently for the need. We can handle about a quarter to a third of the total need.
Right.
And so, you know, we got to get on a stick here and pressure the county or whoever it is to do the job and help us set up the shelter. It's not their job to just slough it off. And we used to have a committee on the homeless, and I know I talked to you, Mayor, earlier about this, and we used to have a committee on the homeless, and they haven't been meeting with any regularity. I would hope, I wasn't on that committee, but I would hope that committee would include
we'll get working on that.
That's fair.
You kind of froze up there, Alan.
Oh, I see that. I got the notice on my screen. That's good to hear. I'm glad to hear you say that.
Well, I don't have any excuse for not having one other than there's just been a lot of stuff going on. We've been busy and it just hasn't come around, but it will. I'll get right on it.
I'll keep on you.
Councilmember Ellis.
Thank you, Mayor. I would also like to express my regret and sadness at the events that occurred over the weekend, right before a big wind and rain event hit Aberdeen. Pallets have been used to keep tents in homeless encampments up off of the pavement, off of the ground, off of the wet for years, and without creating a fire hazard. Those pallets were being used for that, and also to create a very sturdy and rather decent looking structure to keep people protected. And again, it was a timing issue that just didn't seem very fair. Just because you can doesn't mean you should, especially with this RFQ going out for starting a shelter. We've got some processes in the works. Let's now let those run their course. And I know that the camp on the city parking lot has overstayed its welcome, and the space may well be needed by city employees, but let's also have some compassion and look at the bigger picture and look for some workable options. And I would really like to be on the committee that's looking into this as well. Thank you.
I just want to comment that this is all good and well, and I appreciate everyone's compassion. Every one of them tents down there have pallets under them. And obviously you didn't know that, but they do. And all these extra pallets they brought, they were going to burn them. They've been using a old style barbecue thing to have an open fire. And the fire department told them they couldn't do that. And they were cutting our tree branches out down there to burn. And then they had somebody bring in all them pallets, and they were going to tear them apart and cut them up and burn them. That's why we got rid of all that. It's a fire hazard. So just, I know you didn't know, but they have pallets underneath their tents now. Councilmember Andrews.
So if anybody wants the background, I actually have a timeline of everything we've done building up to Tassel and everything we've gone through with the county. But if anybody wants to pressure anybody, that's who should be pressured. That's who gets the money from the state. They get the money for homeless services. They get the money to provide shelter to the homeless citizens of the entire county of Grace Harbor. We do not have a housing department. I mean, I have compassion. I sit on Tassel. I've been through all of this. I came up with numerous plans for over the years. But, you know, everybody has rights and they have rights, and I have compassion for them. And I don't like seeing them out in the street, but I really think the county needs to be held responsible, and they're not. Nobody's holding them responsible. And it's very frustrating. It's very frustrating for us who have been on the council for years and been dealing with this for years. But if anybody wants that timeline, I'll be happy to send it to you.
Councilmember Ellis.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to respond to your comments in that I spent Sunday morning at the camp talking with people and later talking with them again in the afternoon, and not all the tents are on pallets. If they needed firewood, they could get firewood. You can see there are two structures with new black PVC plastic. Those are structures they made using the pallets and PVC pipe, and then covered with plastic. One is being used for a private place to use a restroom, and another was made to accommodate two individuals. They were hoping to replace some of the rickety tents with these structures and not to burn them. I think that's a misunderstanding, and
my eyes must be lying to me. I saw them.
Well,
I saw them cutting the tree branches and stacking them up next to their fire they had going.
Mayor Shea, you have the majority support of the council on this right now. It's probably just best to, you know, while you're ahead.
Yeah. I think we've got the opportunity to work with people at the camp. We just need to involve them in discussions and let them know that what isn't acceptable and what is, and work with them.
Thank you.
Well, at the risk of negating what I just said, what's not acceptable is for them to be in that parking lot. So yes, let's work with them, but they can't be there. That's done.
Any other council comments? Councilmember Rich Rod.
At the risk of being on a completely different track here, it had come to my attention through conversations with constituents in my ward and others that there are a lot of people on various forms of fixed income, Social Security or what have you, that are paying their city fees, the water bills and all that stuff, and that there are city penalty fees due to be instituted starting in November. And I was wondering if we could maybe, it's a short notice, but if we could craft a bill or an ordinance to waive the penalty fees. Not one of these people none of them balk at paying the city service fees. Because in fact, as one told me, the city has a right to charge the fee it does, the price it does for the services it renders. But the penalty fees, whatever they are, I admit to not having an exact number, but the penalty fees can stack up and you may never get out from under it. And whether they're going through or the nation and there was one other, and I can't remember what it was, to get assistance. It's going to take time, several weeks, for this assistance money to come through. And in the meantime, these penalty fees will stack up. And I'd like to see if we could fix that at least through the end of the year, maybe a little later, but I want to do something about that.
I move that this matter be referred to the Public Works Committee for consideration, and that it also come through Finance Committee for fiscal impact.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded to move the matter of the penalty fees to Public Works Committee and then refer back into Finance. Is there any discussion? Under discussion, Councilmember Meskis.
Just under discussion. You beat me to it at the end.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Oh, stop. Rick.
Just that right now, Public Works and Finance is working on a repayment plan, and it needs to happen faster than the next Public Works Committee meeting. Have no issue with getting input from the council, how you want to handle things. There's certain rules that we have to follow. And I believe Patricia is up on everything that has to be done in that regard. But I think we have timelines that are not going to wait for 2 weeks until we have another Public Works Committee meeting.
Okay, any other discussion? There's a motion on the floor. Councilmember Richrod.
So we
withdraw your motion and get on a better system.
You're broken up, Alan.
Do we need a decision on this now? And I think Margot.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
So I would amend my motion, if that's okay, to ask for a report on how we're working with our financially challenged residents, so that report back to us on what you do. Is that workable?
Absolutely. I'm happy to work with the council as well. I know Patricia has a timeline. She's talked about a timeline. I see she's on here and she just unmuted. So she probably has some comments on what has to happen with that repayment schedule. So again, I just didn't want to push us out 2 weeks when I had talked to Patricia earlier and it sounded like we needed something done sooner than that. So maybe she can correct me.
The moratorium ended the end of September. So what we're trying to gather up is people that have got more than a couple of months overdue due to COVID. And currently the outstanding balance is over 500,000 in utility bills that haven't been paid. So we're trying to make a list. We've went in and printed last month's list of who all owes us. And we're working with Rick. As he said, he's gone through 2 of his water customer service. People are no longer here. So we're helping them draft a repayment plan document that per the statute, we're supposed to, or the COVID relief, we're supposed to give them up to 18 months to repay if they qualify. So we've got it drafted. We've asked Rick and Water Customer Service to give us some comments. And I think Andrea checked and got the last comment. So we're going to give it to Jeff to make sure what we have in there is correct. We haven't discussed the interest and the penalties, but I would like to have Jeff help us do some research to see if that is something that we can not have to charge. As I agree with whoever brought it up, that this is going to be hard enough to get the utility amounts back. If you add in interest and penalties, you're just putting a big burden. But I don't know what the state statute on that says. Jeff may know. Jeff, do you?
I don't know off the top of my head, but I think that's certainly something we can look at right away.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion?
I withdraw my motion and trust that we'll get a report.
Okay.
And I withdraw my second.
Thank you. Tony, did you have a question?
I just had something to add to that, that the Department of Commerce, I'm not sure if you guys know, you guys may already know, does have for low income people when it comes to penalties. There is a program that on the DOH site. I will send it to Patricia and Jeff and Tiesa, and Rick, just so you guys know. If you already knew about it, I apologize for repeating. If you don't, maybe it'll help.
Thank you.
I got something.
I'm trying to look up this that I read earlier through CAP with the LIHEAP program, where you can make an appointment in there for help paying your utility bills. And they've already given away quite a lot of money that the government has provided for that. So that opportunity is available. Okay, anything else?
I got one. I want to just briefly mention that on Saturday at 10 o'clock, the Grace Harbor Stream Team is cleaning up Alder Creek, and they could use some help if you got some free time. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Councilmember Ellis.
Does Councilmember Richrod need to withdraw his proposal?
He didn't make a motion.
Oh, okay.
No, I didn't make a motion.
Thank you. Good motion. I mean, good suggestion.
John Mackey.
Yeah, hi everybody. I thought I mentioned this tonight. Something I've been thinking about for quite some time. I've been a councilman now for 4 years, finishing up my first term and luckily going on to a second term. And there's one thing that I've noticed that I've thought about many times during council meetings is the public comment period. And I'm going to kind of rely on some of my senior council people like Tawny and Pete and Deanne and who else we got here? Margot, of course. Public comment. What is the reason for public comment is that the people are telling us what they would like us to do. Is that correct? Or what they suggest that we should do better at or whatever. And we have all of these public comments that now are being read to us. A while back, we had a whole bunch of them that weren't read to us because there were so many of them. And even back in the times when we still had public meetings and we'd have people that would come up and make comments during public. And there's nothing ever to me that I would recall ever done or talked about or anything ever been mentioned again about any of those public comments. And some of the people that have come to me and told me that they have made a public comment and what was the result of it. And I've told them nothing that I know of other than the fact that it's been written or read into public record. And that concerns me because there's a lot of people out there, and there was a lot of people a while back that had a lot of comments, but I've never figured it out. So I'm relying on my senior members like Tawny. Well, what can you tell me to help me with this?
Go ahead, Tawny.
So I'll just, since Pete's the mayor and no longer a councilman, I'll just speak for council. So city council comment period is a time for the public to tell us if they want to improve something or they want to complain about something or anything else. But it is up to the council to decide to act on that. And that's usually where during our city council comment period, if a council member wants to make a motion or if a councilman or woman wants to take that issue on, that's up to the individual council person. Like, you know, if you hear somebody's concern and it's up to you to take it to the committee or make a motion to send an issue to the committee, just like was done tonight. But a lot of that resides on the 11 other people in the council with you. If you don't step up and make the motion, then somebody else, you know, needs to, or it just dies if it's not sent to a committee.
Well, so much of it has been coming back to me personally that you might find me a little more vocal on some of these comments, public comments, because I think they really mean something. And I know people that won't do it because of the fact we don't do nothing about any of the comments that come through. And some of these people think that their comments are very important, and I believe that they are too. But any other than that, that's all I really wanted to say.
Margot has something, Pete.
Go ahead, Margot.
The public comment period has always been a problem because we have been, we the council does not immediately respond to the person making a comment. And they consider that a slight or an ignoring it or whatever. But I think probably way back before I was even on council, they used to, the council members would respond to public comment at that time. And they get on into some pretty long debates about stuff that they wasn't debatable and all that. So it's just a matter of the public, if they will understand that they make their comments, we do take them in, and tonight's a good example. I mean, we really did respond a lot to the comments, but yes, later on.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other council comments? Liz Ellis.
I was just going to add that when people in my ward comment, I send them a email back or a phone call, at the very least, to thank them for their comment.
That's a nice touch. I like that. Any other comments? See none?
I move we adjourn.
There's a second. Thank you. Motion is made and seconded to adjourn. If there's no objection, I'll call this meeting adjourned.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night,
everybody.
Thank you.